Naofumi Iwatani is an average college otaku who lives with his younger brother, and together they live off of their parents' money. One day, while checking out manga at the library, Naofumi stumbles across a light novel called The Four Heroes Weapons Manual, and while skimming through it, finds himself transported to another world along with 3 other people. Naofumi soon discovers a shield attached to his arm, and people asking him and the others to save their world. While Naofumi is confused about the situation, he finds himself in the other 3, Motoyasu Kitamura, who is holding a spear, Ren Amaki, who is holding a sword, and Itsuki Kawasumi, who is holding a bow, are already negotiating payment with their summoners, apparently familiarity with this new world. The summoners promise an explanation to follow as they lead the 4 heroes to the king of their country, Altkray Melromark, asking each of the 4 to introduce themselves, and pointedly ignoring Naofumi. The king explains that their world is under threat from waves of calamity, interdimensional portals that open periodically and dump monsters onto their lands, and need the 4 to stop them. They are heroes chosen by the 4 legendary weapons as champions to defend them from the waves. In exchange for defending their world, the heroes' weapons have the ability to send them back to their worlds to live under highly favorable conditions, or live in this new world where the king promises they will be treated as heroes for the rest of their lives. However, as they are now, the 4 will not stand a chance against the incoming waves. Thus, come morning, the king will have prepared volunteers to join the 4 of them to hunt monsters and increase their power. As the 4 retire to the room prepared for them, they learn various things about both each other and the world they now find themselves in. For starters, they learn about status magic, which tells them about both themselves and their weapons and the various abilities that they share. For another, the 4 heroes also learn that although they all come from Japan, they don't come from the same Japan. The other 3 have all played different games whose plot and gameplay remind them of the world they're now in, but the games were all on different systems for each hero, except of course for Naofumi, who got a book. They also confirm that Japan's histories and cultures are different from one another via a round of trivia. The other 3 also confirm that in their respective games in which they learned about the world, Naofumi's class, the shield, was the loser's class. While Naofumi can expect to have an easy time at first being invulnerable to low-level monsters, he has next to 0 attack power, and it won't increase as he levels. When morning comes, despite 12 adventurers having volunteered to join their parties, Naofumi finds that no one wants to join his party. Rumors have already spread about Naofumi's seeming incompetence, weakness, and apparent lack of knowledge of the world, which the legends say all the heroes should have. No one wants to join a legendary hero's party and expect to do all the work themselves. However, one of Motoyasu's party members, a woman named Mine, volunteers to join Naofumi. The 4 heroes are given an allowance by the king to live off of for the next month, 800 silver coins for Naofumi for this time alone, as he had no party members, and 600 each for the other heroes. The king also promises a special allowance of 500 silver for each month to each of them. Mine takes Naofumi to a blacksmith named Erhard who sells them equipment, 100 silver coin chainmail coat for Naofumi. Naofumi also learns to his horror that he can't even pick up a sword to attack with. Due to the power of his shield, anyone that he tries to pick up immediately flies out of his hand. Naofumi is taken to a field outside of the castle where he is introduced to orange balloons, monsters that resemble orange balls which fly around at high speeds. Attempting to take a group of them on by himself, Naofumi spends 5 minutes of continuous punching just to make one of them pop. Further blows to his confidence come when he watches Ren chop more of the balloons to pieces with his sword. After a long day of punching the balloons, Naofumi learns that he can feed bits and pieces from the monsters he's killed to his shield in order to unlock alternate transformations for the weapon. Calling it quits for the evening, Naofumi and Mine return to the town. Mine buys an expensive set of armor and sword. She promises to get stronger and earn a lot of money to make up for it. They return to the inn where they enjoy steak, and she invites him for a drink of wine together. But Naofumi calls it a night and promises to drink with her another time. Before retiring for the night, Naofumi stashes some coins to the shield as a precaution. The next day, Naofumi learns that the clothes he came to the new world with, the armor he bought, and all the money he had left from the king have all been stolen. Checking in on Mine, Naofumi is snatched by a group of royal guards and forcibly dragged in before the king and the other heroes. There, Naofumi was accused that after apparently getting drunk last night, he violently attempted to rape Mine, who then sought safe refuge with Motoyasu, whom it should be noted is wearing his chainmail. The king calls his action punishable by death, and none of the gathered was willing to listen to his side of innocence. When Mine starts making faces at him, Naofumi becomes enraged and realizes that he's been framed for rape and all of his belongings, but the shield and underclothing he went to bed in last night were stolen by Mine. Naturally, Naofumi demands proof for such an accusation against him. The knight produced a negligee that is said to be found in the shield hero's room, but Naofumi says that it was not there when he woke up. Frustrated, he demanded to be sent back to his world immediately. However, the king can't do that. The heroes can't be returned to their own world until the waves are stopped, and they can't summon new heroes until either this set of waves are stopped or all 4 of the heroes are dead. The king tells him that he should fight the wave, and the rumors of his deed are already spread across the nation, and he shouldn't expect any help or favors. Naofumi breaks free of the guards and storms out of the castle, but not before throwing the rest of his money he hid in his shield at Motoyasu, realizing that everyone from the start had been plotting against him. Naofumi encounters Erhard, who is about to punch him for his actions, but stops after looking him in the eyes. Instead, he gives Naofumi some armor he had on clearance and tells him to pay him back when he can. A thoroughly enraged Naofumi goes out to the fields and takes his anger out on the balloons there. After working through the night, Naofumi finally reaches level 2. The next morning, Naofumi gathers the scraps of balloons he killed and brings them to a merchant to sell. After the merchant initially tries to rip Naofumi off, the shield hero reveals numerous balloons hidden under his coat trying to gnaw through his arms and legs, though they happily take their pent-up aggression out on the merchant when Naofumi puts him into a chokehold. Like that, Naofumi successfully bullies his way into something resembling fair treatment by tossing balloons at people who try to rip him off while at the same time fending off people who try to steal from him. Naofumi also realizes that he couldn't taste food since the day of the accusation. After 2 weeks and 2 more level ups, Naofumi frustratingly laments that he's trapped in a vicious cycle. He can't defeat strong monsters because he has no attack power. He can't get more attack power because he can't level up, and he can't level up because he can't defeat strong monsters. After fending off another group of would-be party members, a strange short little man makes his presence known to offer a solution to Naofumi's party member situation. Rather than some half-baked companion who can turn on Naofumi at any time, what the hero of the shield really needs is someone who is magically bound to obey Naofumi's commands. A slave who cannot betray, lie, or disobey their master due to the slave curse placed on them, which will take their life if they did do those things against the master. The strange man turns out to be a profitable slave trader with many cages of slaves within his huge tent of operations, all of which don't seem completely human. While browsing towards slaves that the trader thinks Naofumi would like, Naofumi notices a small raccoon demi-human, as the slave trader described them, who appears to have a cough. Balukas takes Naofumi to his tent where he shows him some of the individuals he has for sale. All of the beings he has in stock are demi-humans, who possess physical animal characteristics. Though the sale of slaves in Melromark is not illegal, the owning of a human slave is strictly forbidden by the human supremacist government. The slave trader initially offers a high-level werewolf-type beastman, but Naofumi is able to tell straight away that it's out of his price range. Congratulating Naofumi's eye for quality, the slave trader shows the 3 cheapest slaves, and Naofumi settles on a sickly tanuki-type demi-human girl he noticed earlier named Raftalia. Naofumi takes her to Erhard, who disapproves, but helps Naofumi by outfitting Raftalia with a chainmail dress and a knife. On the field, he then orders her to stab one of his balloons to introduce her to combat. This experience enlightens him about the party system, that the party members share their systems, and more importantly, realizes how Mine never made a party with him. Specifically, since Raftalia is in the same party as Naofumi, any monsters she kills will also give him experience points. Naofumi next dines with Raftalia at a restaurant, and later when he's grinding medicinal leaves in the forest, he gives some medicine to cure her illness. She discovers Naofumi is the shield hero, and remembers her father talking about the shield hero's legendary compassion for demi-humans. The next day, he learns while selling to the medicinal shop owner that due to the wave impacts on towns, medicines are products of high demand, to which he then centers his productivity and profit. After days of hunting, Naofumi gradually bonds with Raftalia, even buying her a ball to play with in her free time, buying her snacks, giving her haircut, and comforting her when her nightmares begin to get the better of her. Naofumi then explains that they hunt in order to build power to face the waves of calamity, and since he has next to 0 attack power, Raftalia will have to kill for him, but in exchange, he will act as her guardian. Erhard starts to notice her progress, and upgrades her from knife to short sword. The two travel to the Ryute village to trade their game, but learn of a lucrative venture from one of the local merchants. The town's coal mine is full of valuable minerals but is inhabited by monsters from the first wave, and neither the heroes or the country's knights have made any exterminations. Before entering the mine, Naofumi unlocks the rope shield that gives him the ability to lasso an airstrike shield, a summoned barrier. Soon after, he unlocks the pickaxe shield, which helps him easily chip through bedrock in the mines. After acquiring some ore, Naofumi and Raftalia are confronted by a two-headed black dog, a monster from the first wave that reminds Raftalia of the beast that murdered her parents during the same wave. Narrowly fleeing to safety, Naofumi decides that they might as well attempt to slay the beast since they cannot outrun it. As he struggles to hold the black dog, Raftalia freezes up in terror against the dog in spite of Naofumi's attempts to use the slave crest to make her fight. Seeing as how Raftalia can't fight, he tells her to flee while he holds off the dog monster. Her trauma of her parents' death played out in front of her again, but this time she remembers her bond with Naofumi and realizes the fear of losing him as well. Out of courage and despair, Raftalia grabs her knife and pounces on the dog, twice stabbing it to death before going to the injured Naofumi for comfort. She addresses him by his given name for the first time. Back at the restaurant, Raftalia collects the flag from her kid's meal. Naofumi adds a red dot to the white flag, making it a miniature Japan flag as a reminder to himself what he's fighting for, to get out of this world and return home. Naofumi Iwatani and Raftalia have been hunting monsters for 2 weeks now. Naofumi has been able to unlock a huge number of shields from feeding his weapon various bits and pieces of monsters, while Raftalia has suddenly grown into a young woman. Having been injured while fighting against a porcupine-type monster, Naofumi brings Raftalia with him as he goes to get an upgrade to his armor. While speaking with Erhard, the blacksmith realizes that Naofumi can't tell that Raftalia has grown, who instead assumes that everyone who comments on Raftalia's looks are secretly a lolicon, much to the Tanuki girl's displeasure. After deciding against some of Erhard's stock armor, the pair ordered a custom commission and come back to the shop after another dinner, where Naofumi treated Raftalia as a child. With the barbarian armor equipped, Naofumi comments that since he doesn't know when or where the next wave will appear, it is hard for him to prepare for it, to which Erhard informs him that the red hourglass of the Dragon's Era is counting down to the wave, and it will transport the heroes and their comrades to the wave location when it begins. Having been given this extremely convenient information that he figures he should have had or been given in the first place, Naofumi goes to the tower and gets registered, where he is confronted by Motoyasu, Ren, and Itsuki and their respective parties. Motoyasu wastes no time flirting with Raftalia, while also dropping her malicious warnings about Naofumi. Angered, Naofumi takes his companion and leaves the others while he waits for the next wave to appear. Just before the wave, Raftalia expresses her gratitude for meeting Naofumi and swears her undying loyalty to him by saying that "I am your sword. Wherever you go, I'll follow you." These are her words to him. Once the last grain of sand in the dragon hourglass has dropped, the 4 heroes and their parties are transported just outside of the Ryuta village. Realizing that none of the villagers have evacuated and the knights can't get there in time to protect the village, Naofumi realizes that all the people in the village are about to get killed. Instead of going off to confront the wave's boss, Naofumi and Raftalia fight to defend the village from the horde of undead and monster bees summoned into the battle. The two split up. Raftalia helps to evacuate the villagers while Naofumi lures as many of the monsters as possible away from the village. After Naofumi successfully drops a flaming guard tower on top of the horde, several villagers and Raftalia return to the village in order to help Naofumi fight. Backup eventually comes in the form of Melromark's knights, who resort to indiscriminate firebombing to wipe out the monsters and don't care if the shield hero or the villagers are stuck in the crossfire. An enraged Raftalia, willing to avenge Naofumi's honor, tries to strike down the cowardly captain, who is readily protected by his loyal vice-captain. Naofumi points out the danger and asks them to join the fight, but the captain and other higher-ranking knights decide it's not worth it to work with the shield and run off to assist the other 3 heroes. However, the vice-captain, a younger officer, and several other lower-ranking knights decide to stay behind and form an alliance with Naofumi to help eliminate the monsters. Eventually, the other 3 heroes defeat the wave's boss, a chimera, and thus cut off the flow of monsters, essentially ending the wave. While the other 3 heroes were getting ready to collect their rewards, the villagers sincerely thank Naofumi for his actions, though some casualties were unavoidable to occur. Raftalia asks if they managed to at least prevent some orphans from being made of the villagers, to which Naofumi says yes, and pats her head while she cries for her own losses in the past. Following the events of the second wave, the Kingdom of Melromark celebrates. At the royal castle, the heroes and their companions are being thrown an elaborate victory celebration, where the king personally congratulates them on a job well done. Naofumi curses being there, but notes he has no choice if he wants to get his promised payment. Naofumi also spots the knight captain bragging to some young noblewomen about defeating a huge monster, when in reality he deserted Naofumi and arrived too late to help any of the other heroes. Despite Naofumi's objection, Raftalia brings over some cake and persuades him to try some. Upon seeing this, a seething Motoyasu takes off one of his gloves and throws it at Naofumi's feet. challenging him to a duel. The entire room falls silent at this, but Naofumi is unprovoked. Motoyasu tells him he knows that Raphtalia is his slave, which he believes is morally wrong, and demands Raphtalia's freedom if he wins. Naofumi calls the spear hero out on this, stating that it is only Motoyasu's opinion and that slavery is permitted in Melromark. The other heroes, Ren and Itsuki, are also shocked to learn that Naofumi has a slave as a party member and are disgusted with him. Outraged, Naofumi tries to take Raphtalia back by force, only to be surrounded by numerous guards who draw their swords on him. Left with no choice, Naofumi reluctantly accepts the duel but declares that they better hand Raphtalia back when he wins. Naofumi is escorted to the courtyard where he meets the spear hero. When Naofumi ignores Motoyasu's offer to surrender gracefully, the latter charges. Despite the drawbacks from his weapon, Naofumi quickly proves his mettle. He blocks all the incoming strikes with his relative ease using his light metal shield and declares that Motoyasu lost the moment he couldn't penetrate his shield. The king, Melromark's nobles, and mine are clearly shocked by the shield hero's resilience and ability to hold his own. Although Ren and Itsuki seem genuinely surprised at this unexpected development, several of the nobles call out Naofumi's dirty, underhanded tactics. Declaring the fight in Motoyasu's favor, the king makes his way down to the arena. Mine, meanwhile, stands alongside the man she betrayed and framed. The king congratulates the spear hero on a job well done and declares that his daughter chose her companion wisely, revealing to Naofumi that Mine's real name is Princess Malti Melromark. The king, meanwhile, is not the ignorant, justice-driven fool that Naofumi thought he was. As Malti's father, he undoubtedly had prior knowledge of his daughter's malicious scheme and intentions. As if to add to Naofumi's suffering, after one of Alcray's ministers declares that Motoyasu has now freed Raphtalia, the callous audience start to openly demean the shield hero. Calling him a criminal and scum, the citizens demand that Naofumi be executed. He drops to all fours, slamming the ground in frustration, a thick black mist surrounding him. He watches helplessly as Raphtalia has her slave crest forcefully removed. Naofumi, under the shield's influence, hallucinates the child Raphtalia, abandoning him like everyone else, by walking away with Mine. He desires nothing more than to destroy this unjust world and the foul people within it. As a result of his hallucinations and negative emotion, something called the Curse series unlocked in response to his rage. Motoyasu is sent reeling backwards, a big red mark now decorating his left cheek. Raphtalia denounces Motoyasu as a cheater and slaps him. This leads to a verbal confrontation between the demi-human and the spear hero. Shaken by Raphtalia's lack of gratitude, Motoyasu states that he had to free her because she was a slave. That meant that Naofumi was abusing and misusing her. Naofumi never mistreated or misused her. On the contrary, he never forced her to do anything that she didn't want to do, and only activated the curse when she wouldn't fight. As the arena empties around them, the now completely dejected and humiliated Motoyasu clutches his spear for support. The spear hero still insists that he did nothing wrong. Ren and Itsuki call their comrade out on this self-serving declaration, stating quite firmly that is clearly not the case. The next morning, Naofumi wakes up and realizes that Raphtalia was indeed an adult and asks her about it. Raphtalia explains that demi-humans share a unique biological quirk with monsters. Demi-human children rapidly age in proportion to their level. Raphtalia scrounges together some leftovers of the feast from the kitchen, making sandwiches for the two of them. Naofumi realizes that he can taste the food once again. A woman is being briefed by a spy while getting dressed by her servants. The spy explains that the actions of the king are most likely Malti talking him into it. However, the woman is happy to learn that Naofumi was able to find a slave to help him. Since the matter of the shield hero is taken care of, at least for now, the woman decides she needs to focus on keeping Melromark's neighboring countries from interfering. The day after the celebration party and the biased duel, the heroes have been gathered to receive their rewards for fighting the wave and also for fulfilling the crown's request. Motoyasu is given 4,000 silvers, Itsuki and Ren each receive 3,800 silvers, while Naofumi is given 500 silvers as promised of monthly payment. However, the king declares that the shield hero's payment is forfeited, stating it will cover the cost of freeing his slave. This causes Itsuki and Ren to speak up and declare that Naofumi is being treated unfairly again. They declare that the king is being completely unreasonable. They both state it was very clear that Naofumi won that match, much to Motoyasu's frustration. Coming to her father's defense, Malti tries to counter their argument by stating that Naofumi broke the rules in that fight. He snuck balloons into the arena and used them in what was supposed to be a one-on-one fight. Therefore, her father is in the right here. However, the two heroes counter this by pointing out that she has no right to say such a thing. given that she fired a spell into the arena to make sure Naofumi would lose. Plus, as Ren points out, Naofumi has upheld his side of the bargain. Despite the two youngest heroes' best efforts, however, all they succeed in doing is getting Naofumi his original 500 silver allowance. After reluctantly handing over the cash, the king states that his business with Naofumi is done, and orders the shield hero out of the castle. Before the man he helped to frame can retort, however, Raphtalia steps in front of her companion, giving the two royals a very dirty look. Naofumi and Raphtalia return to Balukas, who restores Raphtalia's slave crest by her own request, as it symbolizes Naofumi's trust in her. And she also wants him to notice her femininity, which falls flat when he completely misses the point. By absorbing the ink from the ritual into his legendary shield, Naofumi unlocks the slave series for his shield, which gives Raphtalia an extra bonus to her stats per level up. After turning down Balukas' offer to buy back Raphtalia, Naofumi notices a monster egg raffle that if he pays 100 silvers, he'll be able to buy a random monster egg. At a minimum, he's guaranteed a philolial, which he can use to travel around the countryside or sell it back to Balukas once it's an adult at twice the money. After buying a monster egg, Naofumi visits the medicinal shop owner, who offers Naofumi an intermediate book on potion crafting as gratitude for protecting his relatives who were at the village that Naofumi was protecting during the wave. She also suggests Raphtalia to learn illusion magic. The magic shop owner would like to give Naofumi a crystal ball that will instantly teach him the magic sealed within, but her livelihood depends on that single crystal ball, which is mentioned to be expensive. She reveals the news of how the kingdom purchased a large number of crystal balls for the heroes. Naofumi concludes that it might have been given to the other heroes, excluding him. Reading the books given to him, Naofumi learns that although he understands what people are saying thanks to his shield's auto-translation function, he still cannot read their language and is going to have to learn it on his own. Raphtalia wants to learn the magic and language together with Naofumi since they have more than 1 month before the next wave strikes. In the meantime, they decide to spend the night in Ryuta. The egg hatches, revealing a newborn philolial that rapidly grows in size as the pair hunt monsters around the village. After only 2 days, it had already become an adult, something that Naofumi attributes to unlocking the Beast Tamer's shield. The philolial is also given the name Philo. Royal knights arrive at the village with a royal decree, naming Motoyasu the village's new lord. The first order of business is a hefty tax of 50 silver to enter and leave the village, which means that the village will be broken the next day. Naofumi objects to the tax, pointing out that night at the local inn is just 1 silver, food included. As Malti prepares to have her knights silence the villagers, a group of shadows show up and stop her. The shadows bring with them a message for Malti, and as a result, she changes the decree so Naofumi and Motoyasu will compete in a dragon race for the right to control the village. Naofumi logically wants to stay out of it, but Philo is already challenging Motoyasu's dragon, and the current lord promises a reward if he wins. Raphtalia also notes that the sight of Motoyasu in pain has made Naofumi smile for the first time since she's met him. The race consists of a simple course of 3 laps around the village, with the gate as the start and finish line. Malti's knights cast magic to litter the perimeter of the village with traps that Philo has to avoid. Motoyasu initially has the lead, but Philo still outpaces him, in spite of having a debuff magic cast on her and speed buff magic cast on Motoyasu's dragon. Thanks to the powers of his shield, Naofumi is able to avoid the traps and wins the race. Philo spontaneously transforms from an ostrich-like creature into one that resembles a giant owl. Malti attempts to use this as proof of Naofumi cheating. The shadows once again step in, revealing that they have thoroughly checked the course. It is littered with magic that Naofumi and Raphtalia have no affinities for, and the Spear Hero party was the real cheater during the race. With this, Motoyasu's party is forced to limp away, while the village prepares Naofumi's reward. Naofumi doesn't want money as a reward, he has already had enough bad rumors going around about him. Philo instead suggests a slightly damaged wagon that scraped through the wave relatively intact, and Naofumi is also given a merchant's pass that will exempt him from toll charges. A while outside of the village, Philo's incredible speed has left Raphtalia carsick, and they have to camp while she recovers. The next morning, Naofumi discovers his bird was gone and replaced by a little blonde girl with angel-like wings, calling him master and asking for food. Erhard is about to dig into his supper when Naofumi, Raphtalia, and a young blonde girl wearing a cloak walk into the shop. When the girl mentions that she's hungry, Erhard offers her a bite of his sandwich, at which point the girl turns into Naofumi filial and devours the whole sandwich in a single bite. They explain that they took Philo back to Belucas, who explained that filial flocks typically have a king or queen leading them, and said royals disguise themselves as regular filolials by using a shape-shifting power. After that is the slave trader greedily devoured all of Naofumi's money after fitting Philo with a high-grade slave crest. Erhard explains that making transforming clothes for the girl is out of his league. He offers a dress one of his other customers left for him and directs them to the local tailor. The tailor states she needs magic threads to make shape-changing clothing and directs them to the magic shop owner. The magic shop owner explains that to make magic thread, she needs a new magic crystal for her spinning wheel, which may take time to procure. As compensation, she gives Philo a free magic consultation and determines she has an affinity with wind magic. Having run out of options, the group instead focuses on recouping their losses, having made some merchandise and are using Philo to pull their carriage from town to town. While on the road, the group encounters a man who is desperately running along the road. He explains that he is trying to get home to his sick mother to give her medicine. After getting the man to promise payment, Naofumi takes him on Philo, and they separate from the carriage before running to the mother's house at full speed. There, Naofumi uses the medicine and skill that enhances the medicine to cure the old woman of her ailment before collecting his payment in food and riding Philo back to Raftalia and the carriage. The group spends several days making money by selling goods, medicines, and giving people rides, gaining quite a bit of fame in the process. According to Hikwal, an accessory merchant, Naofumi has gained quite the reputation as a saintly healer traveling from village to village as a merchant riding a carriage pulled by the god of domestic birds. While discussing that, Raftalia informs Naofumi that she had spotted a group of thugs on the road ahead. Their leader explains that they want the merchant and intend to take all of their possessions, though seeing Raftalia, they intend to have some fun with her first. Naofumi, Raftalia, and Philo have the intention of rolling over quietly, but the thugs claim they have a class-upgraded bodyguard with them. Naofumi realizes that he does not know what the class upgrade is. Raftalia uses her magic to turn invisible to attack, while Philo kicks up a tornado, stomping the bandits into submission in the process. Now that the thugs have been defeated, they reveal that another merchant sold Hikwal out. The bandits recognize Naofumi to be the shield hero and smile, as the guards will side with them rather than with the defamed notorious shield hero. Naofumi's response to this is to simply feed them to Philo. However, after begging for their lives, Naofumi quotes to leave them. With the matter of the bandits sorted, Naofumi also squeezes extra payment from the merchant for causing them all of this trouble. The merchant, having taken a shine to Naofumi's business spirit, offers him his connections and training as a craftsman. Thus, Naofumi learns how to refine precious metals, craft and enchant gems, and even learns a little magic in the process. Motoyasu has apparently planted the seed from a legendary crop, thus ending famine in a certain village in the southwest. Finally, he gives Naofumi a letter of recommendation that will allow him to mine for ores and gemstones. Using the letter, Naofumi learns where the magic gem, necessary for Philo's clothes, is located, and the magic shop owner travels there to get it. The location is a cave next to an abandoned temple that was the home of a dangerous alchemist, where the group finds an open, empty treasure chest with a warning next to it, telling in an ancient language to not open it or take the seeds that were inside. While inside the cave, the group hears each other's voices, Raftalia voicing her dissatisfaction at being Naofumi's slave, and Philo voices a desire to kill and devour him. The magic shop owner, however, warns that the monsters in the cave are mimicking their voices and reading their minds to learn the last thing they want to hear and from whom they want to hear it, in order to turn them against each other. The magic shop owner dispels the voice Gengar's illusions, and Philo smites them with wind magic. The group spots a small Nue, one about the size of a lion, and Raftalia and Philo attack it. Realizing that the Nue is relying on sound to track the invisible Raftalia, Naofumi brings out his newest shield, the voice Gengar shield, and has Philo yell into it like a megaphone while having the others plug their ears. The resulting sound attack deafens the Nue, which is further attacked with a fire blast from the shop owner, Raftalia thrusting through with her sword, and Philo kicking its head, finishing the creature. The group collects the crystals and goes back to the magic shop, where they produce the thread from Philo's own mana to compose her clothes and tells Philo to work hard to pay it off. Naofumi and his team are on their way to the Lerno village to sell a large portion of herbicide demanded by them. There, they discover the village overrun by highly aggressive fruit-bearing vines. The village chief explains that Motoyasu attempted to solve the town's famine by planting a bioplant seed he got from some alchemist's lair. Naofumi recollects the seeds to be the same ones as those sealed away in the lair at Southwest, which he visited recently. Even though the bioplant produced a large number of edible plants, they rapidly mutated into monsters after Motoyasu was gone. Some have even turned parasitic and are infesting the townspeople. A group of adventurers had attempted to uproot the plant, but they haven't gotten back yet. After Philo saves the adventurers, she reveals her ability to talk. After Naofumi has cured the villagers, they request that he finish what the adventurers started, rip the bioplant out at the root. After hearing the backstory of the seed from the villagers, Naofumi berates them for not being cautious. Collecting payment for the treatment and advance payment for the monster extermination, Naofumi marches forward, revealing his status as the shield hero in the process. Raftalia and Philo recklessly attack the bioplants, but they end up tripping one another up, putting Raftalia in an embarrassing position, to which Philo smirks. Realizing that the herbicide will be more effective if he is the one to apply it with the shield-enhancing ability, Naofumi tanks the plants with his vastly superior defenses, and pours the herbicide directly on the original bioplant's eyeball-shaped core, killing it in the process. Realizing this mess could easily happen all over again, Naofumi orders his companions to collect as many seeds as possible. Unlocking various shields by feeding the seeds and the dead plants to his legendary weapon, Naofumi acquires the ability to analyze and modify the plants. After spending the night unsealing the powers of his new shields, Naofumi makes simple but important changes to the plants, removing their ability to mutate, while increasing their growth and productivity rates. Naofumi wanted to trade a large number of his modified seeds, but the villagers who were already broken exchange it for all of the unmodified fruit that they still have. Naofumi calls the villagers a tough crowd for this bargain. Going for a quick profit, Naofumi brings the modified seeds to Hikwal, who buys them at a hefty sum. As it so happens, he has another job for Naofumi. He needs delivery to an inn in a nearby town with a hot spring. Arriving at the town and delivering the parcel, which makes some money in their pockets, Naofumi discusses the idea with his companions and decides to spend the night with them. Unfortunately, Raftalia is rapidly growing jealous of Philo's closeness with Naofumi, even in spite of her antics to bond with him and private moments of imagining them together. Philo was constantly clinging to Naofumi, sharing the hot springs with him and also making him brush her hair. Overhearing some girls talking about a rare item named latium that can be used to make an accessory that promotes love, she takes the initiative for latium. According to Raftalia's sources, a bird called Gogoku collects the ore, so all Raftalia has to do is find one of their nests. Philo is soon revealed to be heading the same path as Raftalia, though she wants the bird's egg so that she can give it to Naofumi and prove herself as a mate. While trying to save Philo, Raftalia also falls off and they land on a boar-like monster, the silver razorback. It chases them and they manage to escape. They end up bonding in their adventure. While they were attempting to pilfer from the nest, the silver razorback shows up and charges at the nest, destroying the eggs and punting the ore off into the distance. Taking their outrage on board, the two girls make it their prisoner back to the town, where they end up selling it to some local villagers. Using the money they earned, Philo and Raftalia buy tools for Naofumi to help improve his crafting. After thanking them, Naofumi suggests they clean up in the hot springs. Though they're still treated like children, the two girls agree to continue the pursuit of their master. The next day, as Naofumi's party prepares to leave, he overhears a merchant's conversation about medicines being sold off at a faster rate in the village to the east. Naofumi decides on their next business venture there, Fumi, and prove herself as a mate. While trying to save Philo, Raftalia also falls off and they land on a boar-like monster, the silver razorback. It chases them and they manage to escape. They end up bonding in their adventure. While they were attempting to pilfer from the nest, the silver razorback shows up and charges at the nest, destroying the eggs and punting the ore off into the distance. Taking their outrage on board, the two girls make it their prisoner back to the town, where they end up selling it to some local villagers. Using the money they earned, Philo and Raftalia buy tools for Naofumi to help improve his crafting. After thanking them, Naofumi suggests they clean up in the hot springs. Though they're still treated like children, the two girls agree to continue the pursuit of their master. The next day, as Naofumi's party prepares to leave, he overhears a merchant's conversation about medicines being sold off at a faster rate in the village to the east. Naofumi decides on their next business venture there. Late at night, Naofumi is working on making accessories for Raftalia and Philo, a bracelet and a hair clip. That morning, as they finish packing up for the road, they are encountered by an elderly woman and young boy who warn them that only death lies ahead. A deadly plague that their medicines can't cure and their people can't survive has taken hold of the village. Arriving in the village, Naofumi goes with his usual routine of treating the sick and injured and collects his payment, though he warns that the only thing that he's really done is to treat the symptoms. The village doctor explains that the source of their woes is the wind from the mountain, where lies the corpse of a dragon that was killed about a month earlier by Ren, who then left the body where it was slain. He left the corpse as a source of income for the village, and many came to see the dragon. The village was becoming prosperous, but soon they were infected by the poison from the wind of the mountains, making things far worse. Monsters in the mountains have been mutated by the influence of the corpse into poison-spewing beasts, and normal adventurers can't go anywhere near the mountain. The kingdom claims that the knights and heroes are too busy to clean up the mess and promise more medicine for the time being. Naofumi asks them to cancel the request made to the guild and agrees to deal with the matter for 500 silvers, an outrageous and cynical price, but one that Naofumi uses to emphasize the fact that he is not a saint and won't be taken advantage of. Casting a buff on Philo, the bird rampages through the mountain all the way to the dragon's corpse, defeating every monster in their path. However, upon arriving at the dragon's corpse, it reanimates and turns into a zombie dragon. Philo quickly attacks the reanimated beast for it being the dragon, but ends up being swallowed whole. Philo's life flashes before his eyes. Naofumi snaps, again and again. This world has taken away the things that he cares about. A glitched message appears in Naofumi's mind, asking if he wants power and if he hates everything. Memories of Malti, King Altcray, and the heroes flash through his mind as Naofumi flies off into a berserk rage. Tanking the dragon's attack, Naofumi is bathed in flame from the rage shield as he tells it to burn, suffer, and die. However, Naofumi is snapped out of his rage as Raftalia talks to him. However, between the poison from the undead dragon's attacks and the burns from Naofumi's new shield, Raftalia is in horrible condition as the dragon is still coming after them, and the only shield strong enough to beat it is the cursed shield. Naofumi realizes that he may again lose control of the power and incinerate everything. Miraculously, the dragon suddenly keels over as Philo claws her way out of its stomach, revealing that she was alive and also ate a magic crystal that was apparently the source of its power. Although Naofumi immediately wants to treat Raftalia's injuries, she insists on cleaning up the dragon's corpse first, which he does. Naofumi uses the payment from the village to have their doctor treat her injuries. He explains that he'd treated her as best he can, but what Raftalia really needs right now is high-quality holy water, and the doctor gives Naofumi back the bulk of the payment so that he can buy some. Philo gives Naofumi a piece of the crystal she found in the dragon's corpse. Feeding the crystal to his shield, Naofumi unlocks something that he can't yet use. He also sees that the Wrath Shield isn't part of the upgrade tree, which only makes him feel more ominous about using it. Apologizing for his cowardice, the two girls also apologize to Naofumi for their weakness and recklessness. With this, Naofumi vows to become stronger. Naofumi, Raftalia, and Philo are fighting off a horde of monsters as part of a clearing job the three of them have been hired to complete. During the job, Naofumi and Philo repeatedly ask Raftalia, who is still suffering the effects of the zombie dragon's poison and the curse, if she is okay. Now that they have accumulated the necessary funds, Naofumi intends to return to the castle town and buy the holy water needed to cure Raftalia. On their way back, the trio encounters a group of Philolials that have crowded around a young nobleman's daughter named Melty. The young girl quickly befriends Philo, and Naofumi allows them to play together while he attends to his healer business in the neighboring village. Later that evening, while changing Raftalia's bandages, Melty and Philo come back in and explain that Melty got separated from her escort and now needs a ride back to Castletown. Seeing the dire straits of Melty and hoping for a reward for his services, Naofumi agrees to take her, unknowing that his group was being watched by a spy from outside through the window. The group bonds as they travel and breaks regularly to acquire food and to allow Raftalia to rest. While camping, Raftalia and Naofumi discover Melty's clothes without Melty in them, and even speculate that Philo has eaten the girl, but contrary to these fears, Melty was just sleeping completely naked between Philo's feathers. Arriving in the castle town, Naofumi separates from Philo and Melty and goes to the church to collect the holy water for Raftalia. The high priest welcomes Naofumi and sarcastically congratulates him for the sacred duel with Motoyasu. Demanding an end to the pleasantries, Naofumi states that he has come for the most powerful holy water they have, which costs 1 gold coin, but instead they attempt to swindle him for a cheap knockoff. The high priest reprimands the nun, whom he sent to fetch the water, before sending her back to collect the genuine article. Naofumi was irritated by the high priest's attitude. Later, Naofumi is chased down by one of the town's guards and splits with Raftalia, with the understanding that they will meet back at Philo's carriage. After only just losing the guard, Naofumi is attacked by Motoyasu, who is enraged with the fact that he's taken another slave girl, specifically Philo, who appears to be his type. Naofumi also comically notices that Motoyasu is wearing a codpiece, apparently to protect himself from the kicks of that fat bird. Enraged once more, Motoyasu rampages against Naofumi in the middle of the market town, his missed attacks seemingly hitting everything but Naofumi, and triggering a riot in the process. The guard who was chasing Naofumi earlier attempts to defuse the situation, but Malty approves the fight as a duel, and commands her knights to surround the heroes. Melty arrives with her own guards and diffuses the situation, berating her sister, real name Malty, for her abuse of power and Motoyasu for his reckless behavior. The situation diffused, Raphtalia arrives with Philo, and Motoyasu wastes no time in flirting with Philo. However, his lack of realization that Philo is Naofumi's bird results in a mixture of shock, horror, and pain, as Philo angrily transforms into her filial form and delivers a second kick to Motoyasu's crotch, promptly breaking his codpiece. After the entire mess is properly cleared, Naofumi recognizes the knight vice captain from the earlier battle at Ryut village, who bows down to the shield hero in respectful reverence. Bringing Melty into the weapon shop, she explains that she's first in line for the throne due to Malty's problematic personality, hence how she was able to override her sister's royal decree. Melty truly did not know that Naofumi was the shield hero when they met, but as it stands, she needs to discuss with Naofumi the urgent problem. However, Naofumi will have none of it, for the simple reason that he considers it impossible to trust the royalty of the country. Naofumi flatly informs Melty that he won't trust her, for the simple reason that she is a royal of this nation, and orders her to leave at once. As it so happens, Melty's father is requesting her presence immediately. As Melty heads back to the castle, she recalls a mission given to her by her mother, the queen, who asks her to return to the capital and reprimand her father for his unfair treatment of the shield hero. The queen couldn't do it by herself, as her hands are tied up at the moment. Meanwhile, Naofumi forbids Philo from playing with or seeing Melty again, causing Philo to run off in tears as Naofumi remembers what the king and Malty have done to him. A group consisting of a few young knights and a couple of demi-human sorcerers enter the shop. They ask to be made part of Naofumi's party, at least to fight in the next wave. They want to join only Naofumi and not with other heroes, or to fight alone because all of them hail from the Ryute village, the site of the last wave. Naofumi also recognizes the leader of the group as the young guard who was chasing him previously, and one of the guards who fought along with him during the last wave. They seem to have had the same train of thought as Naofumi. If the army is part of the heroes' parties, then they will be transported to the wave location with them. Naofumi agrees to let them join, but under a condition by bringing up an accessory he crafted. He demands 150 silvers for both it and the right to join his party. They promise to return after making the money. Finally, looking into the reason for visiting the shop in the first place, Naofumi has his and Raphtalia's armor upgraded by Erhard. While at it, Naofumi asks him about the stars that have appeared next to Philo's and Raphtalia names in his status screen. Erhard explains that they've hit a level cap and need to get a class upgrade at the Red Hourglass of the Dragon's Era in order to keep leveling. Naofumi discusses the idea of the class upgrade with his two companions. Raphtalia is fine with whatever Naofumi chooses for her. The shield hero, however, informs her that this is a major life decision, one that needs to take into account what she'll need after he returns to his world. His revelation shocks Raphtalia. At the church, Naofumi was asked to buy a class upgrade for a sum of 15 gold each. Noticing the nun's smirk, Naofumi decides to go with the farce and hands the money for Raphtalia's class up. But another nun shows up explaining that they made a mistake and that Naofumi and his party members have been banned by the king from getting a class upgrade, showing the royal decree. Enraged, Naofumi storms off. Naofumi confronts Bellukas, who was making profits in his business and also had gained a lot of fame because of the good quality slaves he had recently sold to the shield hero. Naofumi demands to know how he managed to get class upgrades for his slaves. Bellukas explains that though he can't offer classes, there are other countries which might. Naofumi's party can get a class upgrade from other countries which also had the Dragon Hourglass, such as Zeltobla, Siltvelt, or Shield Frieden. Bellukas recommends the latter, but Naofumi won't get there in time for the next wave. Bellukas recommends a sale of Wyvern Claws for Philo to increase her fighting power. Bellukas can't let Philo kill his monsters to test her new weapon, but he has caught wind of monsters living in Melromark's sewers that need dealing with. The group easily crushes the crocodile-like monster in the sewer of the capital town before resting for the night. While Raphtalia was treated for the curse, she asks to go along with Naofumi to his own world after the waves, but they're interrupted by Philo. Since Raphtalia and Philo can't level up, Naofumi wants to focus on preparing for the wave, chiefly by stockpiling medicines and scouting possible locations for the wave. Naofumi comes across a town in the north, where he was demanded a toll fee despite his merchant pass. There, he is mobbed by refugees from a neighboring country who were begging with everything they own in exchange for some food. Apparently, Melromark had sent a group of adventurers to help the resistance to depose the king of their country, who was levying heavy taxes. Naofumi feeds the people before heading back to Castletown with just over a day before the next wave hits. While in a restaurant getting their supper, Naofumi's group overhears Ren and Itsuki as they discuss someone scooping up their requests and rewards. Itsuki receives a quest from the guild about a lord in the north who is overtaxing his people beyond the limit of the country and using the funds to hire mercenaries to subjugate the people who raise questions, leading Itsuki to conclude that the lord in question needs a lesson. Itsuki assumes that it's Naofumi who has been running around pretending to be them, so Naofumi takes the liberty of scolding both Itsuki and Ren. The people of the country that Itsuki had apparently saved have resorted to sneaking into other countries just to feed themselves. The people who died as a result of Ren's and Itsuki's actions rest mostly on their heads. Ren is guilt-ridden when he sees Raptalia's injuries and realizes what caused them. With all said and done, Naofumi leaves while ordering the two heroes to stop causing problems. Itsuki refuses to believe Naofumi's words while Ren accepts Naofumi's criticism. Naofumi returns to the weapon shop to get his upgraded armor, now with the core of the zombie dragon lodged in his chest plate and a new auto repair function built in. At the same time, Ake's group catches up with Naofumi, explaining they've pulled together the funds needed to join his party. Naofumi gives them the accessory and tells them to use the funds to buy better equipment and holds a strategy meeting for what they'll do during the wave. Meanwhile, the queen is shown talking to her shadows at the faraway region. The shadow explains that Melty made contact with Naofumi, but as expected, reconciliation with the shield hero will be difficult. The queen realizes the situation she puts Melty through, but as Melremark's future ruler, the princess had to face it. She asks the shadow to keep an eye on things and hopes that the heroes are ready to face the calamity wave. Meanwhile, the wave has begun, under the leadership of a woman in a dark kimono who holds a pair of hand fans. Naofumi and his party have stockpiled on supplies, medicines, and weapons in preparation for the next wave, which is minutes away. Erhard has the utmost confidence in Naofumi, knowing how careful he's being and how hard he's worked to prepare. As part of those preparations, Naofumi has crafted a mana-boosting bracelet for Raftalia and a physical stat-boosting hair clip for Philo. Ake and his comrades get added to Naofumi's party, and together the 8 of them are transported to the wave. A horde of goblins and beastmen from the wave are attacking a lone villager whom they save and inform about the villagers who were evacuated to a safe location, and that he should be there. The local guards are barely keeping up, but a familiar old woman makes short work of the monsters, but stops briefly to thank Naofumi for saving her. Naofumi realizes she's the same old woman he cured about a month earlier. Naofumi questions what the other heroes are doing as it's already been 3 hours since the wave started. Since Ake's group, the other guards and the old woman are at the village, Naofumi feels confident enough, leaving them alone while he goes to confront the wave's boss. The group spots a ghost ship flying through the air and sees Itsuki taking shots at the ship's figurehead with the rest of his party. Itsuki explains that attacking the figurehead will force the Soul Eater into spawning out. Arriving at the ship, Naofumi sees Ren's group fight an endlessly reviving Skull Captain, while Motoyasu's group faces off against a Kraken's tentacles. Their disagreements over which enemy they should prioritize lead to them fighting each other as much as the monsters. Naofumi scolds the heroes for their childish behavior while blocking shots from both monsters they were fighting, stating that if they don't stop treating this like a game, then they are all going to die. Looking at the Skull Captain, Naofumi realizes there's something hiding in its shadow and orders Raftalia to hit it with light magic. Soul Eater is forced out of hiding, though the hero's lightning-based attacks do little to damage it. Philo's wind and highly quick kicks are slowly wearing it down. However, Naofumi realizes they've already wasted too much time, and the other defenders are already too exhausted to keep going for much longer. Naofumi uses the Rage Shield. At the same time, though Naofumi hears the voice of the zombie dragon calling out for Ren's blood, the Rage Shield is upgraded to the Wrath Shield as Naofumi's armor is transformed into a rather sinister set. At the same time, the Wrath Shield's flames coat Philo and send her into a berserk rage against the Soul Eater. Raftalia scolds the heroes for making Naofumi use the Wrath Shield and accurately laments her own weakness. Itsuki and Ren are drawn into the action and attack the monsters which are about to attack Naofumi and call Motoyasu to join in, who was reluctant to work with Naofumi but does so anyway. Ren, Itsuki, and Motoyasu all work together with Naofumi and Philo to strike down the Soul Eater, while Raftalia works to drag Naofumi out of his psychotic rage before his own flames kill him. Clearing his head, Naofumi thinks straight and unlocks a new skill by using Wrath Shield, Shield Prison, and Animal Needle Shield, and unleashes the attack known as Iron Maiden. The Soul Eater is locked inside and stabbed to death on all sides, while Philo and Naofumi collapse from the Wrath Shield's effects. Philo doesn't recall what happened. Naturally, the other heroes assume Naofumi is cheating somehow, but their woes have only just begun as a second Soul Eater appears. However, someone else kills the monster without breaking a sweat. The person in question is a young woman with long, ravenous hair, wearing a dark kimono and wielding a pair of steel fans. The woman introduces herself as Glass, who mocks the group for being so weak that a monster like that was giving them a hard time. She states that only one of them, Naofumi, is worthy of the title of hero. She makes it very clear that she is his enemy and gets ready to fight. Raphtalia stares at Glass in fear. At Glass's insistence, Naofumi introduces himself, whereupon Glass primes a pair of metal fans and declares that they shall now begin the true battle of the wave. Naofumi studies Glass with his information hub but is unable to obtain any information relating to her or her level. Glass asks the shield hero why he is not moving to attack her. She then suggests that Naofumi send his servants to attack her first, referring to the other three heroes. Motoyasu, Ren, and Itsuki all take offense to this, as do their party members who immediately surround Glass. Three heroes unleash their ultimate attacks on her. Glass not only tanks the attacks, she responds with an energy strike of her own, which incapacitates everyone except Naofumi and his companions, knocking them out of the battle. Whilst the other heroes' attacks failed, a potion Motoyasu was carrying flies out of his pocket and lands at Naofumi's feet. He picks it up, discovering it to be a soul-soothing potion. As Glass taunts the other heroes for being weak, Naofumi uses this brief respite to consume the potion and gets ready to fight. He uses his shield prison on Glass, but she immediately breaks out. Raphtalia moving in and attempts to strike Glass with her sword. Glass, however, parries Raphtalia and pushes Philo's incoming kick attack back effortlessly. She then launches a wind attack at the demi-human, forcing Naofumi to jump in the way. Barely able to hold off the attack, the shield hero uses the poison effect of his Chimera Viper shield. Despite being attacked by three massive serpents, Glass is unfazed, telling Naofumi that this will not work on her. Naofumi calls Philo once again. Despite using High Quick to deliver 8 strikes in a single second, Glass parries each of the kicks, unaffected. When Raphtalia attempts to slash her from behind, the raven-haired woman responds with a strike of her own, breaking Raphtalia's sword. Seeing his enemy adopt a familiar stance, Naofumi orders his companions to get behind him. He conjures up a shield prison just in time to protect all three of them from Glass's incoming reverse 4 seasons. As the shield barrier breaks, Raphtalia and Philo collapse onto the deck, clearly exhausted. Smirking, Glass steps forward. She expresses admiration that Naofumi is still standing after all this fighting, but demands to know when Naofumi intends to use his true weapon, the Wrath Shield. Recognizing the full severity of their situation, and with Raphtalia's approval, the shield hero activates his curse weapon. Philo's resulting power-up still doesn't even faze the raven-haired woman, who sends the giant bird flying across the deck. Fire magic lashes against wind magic, but in the end, Glass is consumed in a pillar of fire. Despite being temporarily covered from head to toe, the flames do not hurt her. Worse still, after breaking free, Glass uses a new skill, an armor-piercing attack, which cuts through Naofumi's defense and breaks his dragon gauntlet. Glass notes that Naofumi's defense lives up to his title of hero, stating she knows that his Wrath Shield only works at close range. She orders Naofumi to use his ultimate attack on her. Bowing to her wish, the shield hero imprisons her in another shield prison, then activates Iron Maiden. This is not enough to stop their fan-wielding adversary, who effortlessly breaks free. Suddenly, a loud ticking noise can be heard, as with a massive shudder, the ship starts to descend. The clock in the top right-hand corner of Naofumi's hub is going down, as even her attacks didn't hurt him. A comment from Glass causes Naofumi to realize that their enemy is on a time limit. Glass then readies for another strike. Naofumi and Raphtalia blind Glass with fast light, allowing him to cast healing magic on Philo. Jumping onto Philo's back, they run away. Recovering fast, Glass runs to the stern of the ship, utilizing a long-range attack in a bid to finish off her adversary. Seeing no point in finishing Naofumi off at long range, Glass decides to leave for the time being. Jumping into the air, the raven-haired warrior confidently proclaims that her side will be triumphant in the waves, and that if they want to survive, they are going to need to get a lot stronger. Glass vanishes in a flash of golden light. Seconds later, the sky finally clears and the ghost ship crashes, Motoyasu, Ren, Itsuki, and their party members still aboard. The nearby villages have all been saved without any casualties, with the villagers extremely happy about this. Naofumi, however, sits alone, in deep thought, now very concerned. Even after absorbing the Soul Eater and producing the Soul Eater shield, Naofumi notes that any improvement in their overall fighting power is going to demand class upgrades for Philo and Raphtalia. As he is contemplating this, the villagers tend to the rest of the heroes and their parties, helping them as best they can. Ike then leads his commanding officer over to Naofumi, the latter demanding that the shield hero report to the king immediately. A recording of Naofumi defeating the Soul Eater is presented to the king via a magical crystal ball. At the end of the recording, which skips the encounter with Glass, King Ulcray reluctantly congratulates Naofumi for his victory during the wave in a very offhand manner. This does not go unnoticed by Naofumi, who reflects that he did not wish to return to the castle anyway, and only did so at Ake's insistence. The king demands to know how Naofumi obtained such ludicrous offensive power. He states that such power shouldn't be possible for the defensive shield hero, and wants to know the secret behind Naofumi, threatening Naofumi not to lie to him. Naofumi, pointing to the ground in front of him, the shield hero demands that the king kneel before him and beg for the answer. His declaration shocks everyone present, whilst making Ulcray angry. Naturally, the king responds to Naofumi's insolence by having his guards surround him, swords drawn. However, the shield hero is not intimidated. Instead, Naofumi declares that if he wanted to, he could kill the king and walk out the front door unharmed. Ulcray insists this is a bluff, but Naofumi summons his Chimera Viper shield showing it. Turning to the guards, Naofumi challenges the soldiers, reminding them that he was the one that defeated the previous wave's boss, not any of the other heroes. They regarded Ulcray's soldiers eye one another nervously but made no move to strike. Disgusted, Naofumi makes his position clear that he will cooperate with Ulcray and Melromark until the waves are over and he can return home. He is finished with the king and never wants to see him again. With that, Naofumi rudely turns his back on the court. The king, however, demands to be shown more respect. When that doesn't work, Ulcray then states that if they're unable to bring Naofumi in for his crimes, then they'll just make his slaves pay in his place. This proves to be a big mistake, however, as Naofumi freezes and turns to face the king. Ulcray quails at the unhinged death glare Naofumi sends his way, and proceeds to threaten the man that set out to make his life a misery, simply because he was chosen as the shield hero. As Naofumi is leaving the palace, a mysterious noblewoman with a very outdated speech manner approaches. The woman congratulates Naofumi for his accomplishments, stating that everyone in Melromark shall now be aware of them. Amongst them, however, are forces that do not take kindly to the shield hero's presence. She then holds up a mysterious rosary, which fuses the spear, sword, and bow into one, a symbol the shield hero has seen before. The woman advises Naofumi to be cautious from now on. Meanwhile, Melty enters the throne room, much to her father's delight. Unfortunately, the mood is soured by Melty's revelation about Ulcray's failed conversation with Naofumi. Melty knows full well that Naofumi is necessary to defend against the waves, so she asks her father to reconcile with him before anything else. The king shows a brief moment of anger at this suggestion, before quickly apologizing. Melty then tries a different approach and asks her father about his reason for his hatred towards the shield hero. Ulcray hesitates, then silently hints that something happened in the past between himself, the shield hero, and Demi-Human, which had an impact on his family. Now he fears that if he lets the new shield hero run free, the same sort of thing may happen again. This leaves Melty confused. At that moment, a completely healed Malty comes in. The older princess reminds her younger sister that in the absence of their mother, their father holds absolute authority, and that even princesses have no authority over it. Though they may not understand his intentions, they have to trust that he has their best interests at heart. Melty, however, counters that her conversation with the king has nothing to do with Malty, and reminds her that the one who shoulders the responsibility of crown princess is herself, not Malty. Melty also adds that she too intended to act in the best interest of the country. With that, Melty excuses herself. Ulcray tries to reach out to her but is stopped by Malty. As her sister leaves, Malty glares at the crown princess with a peculiar intensity. Outside, Melty meets with the same noblewoman that Naofumi encountered. The pair have a quick conversation, then leave together, unaware that a Melromark guard was spying on them from behind a pillar. Meanwhile, in the city, Naofumi has just finished talking with Erhard. The weapon shop owner does not think highly of Naofumi's interaction with the king, but he will provide him with as much help as he can. Aware that he will never be able to get a class upgrade in Melromark, Naofumi informs the older man that he was thinking about either visiting Shield Freedom or Silver. Erhard recommends that they travel to Shield Freedom for Philos and Raftalia class upgrades. Although both are demi-human countries, Lintvelt is a lot more extreme in regards to demi-human supremacy, though this should not affect Naofumi, who is the shield hero. The group departs later that same day, with Erhard also providing some gifts for the group to help them on their journey. For Naofumi, a shield accessory which scans for new powers. For Raftalia, a brand new sword and a magic sword to use against non-corporeal enemies. Last but not least, a set of power gloves that greatly enhance a human's strength. That evening, after making camp at the side of the road, the group enjoys a light supper. Whilst Philo accidentally burns her tongue on a hot drink, Naofumi reflects on how much he enjoys traveling. It allows him to forget about his troubles. No sooner does he think this, than a voice calls and he is forced to confront reality again. A carriage approaches flanked by several guards. Sitting at the back of the carriage is Princess Melty. Philo is overjoyed to see her friend again, whilst Naofumi is noticeably less than thrilled. Raphtalia, however, argues with Naofumi that whilst it may have only been temporary, Melty was a decent traveling companion, and that he should talk to her. Melty addresses Naofumi very formally before asking him to return to the castle and have another talk with her father. The shield hero, however, instantly refuses. Although initially taken aback, the princess insists that Naofumi should apologize for his conduct and reconcile with her father, to which he again refuses. Melty then tries to appeal to Naofumi's sense of duty, stating that he is needed to fight the waves and that he will be lost without her father's financial support. Naofumi scoffs at this, her words bearing no fruit since Naofumi received no help or financial support from the king. Naofumi adds that he was one graciously helping the kingdom until the waves end, prompting a scolding from Raphtalia. Frustrated, Melty finally loses her temper and throws a tantrum, irritated at how everyone is behaving. She demands to know why Naofumi and her father are so hostile with each other, stating that a hero and the king shouldn't be fighting like this in a time of crisis. She turns to both Philo and Raphtalia for support, leaving them both flustered. When this does not sway Naofumi to talk to her father, Melty insists that he do so, otherwise her father will be yelled at by her mother. Unmoved, Naofumi reflects on how much she is behaving like her father, before noting Melty's mention of her mother. As Melty continues glaring at him, ready to continue their argument, the shield hero glances behind the princess in the direction of her guards. Strangely, they are still standing some distance away. Something about them catches Naofumi's attention. The soldiers are all staring at him, unblinkingly, intense glares on their faces. Even more strangely, the guard in the center of the formation is holding a crystal ball, identical to the one Altcray used back in the throne room. An uneasy feeling creeps over Naofumi, and the shield hero realizes that something is very wrong here. He has seen that type of expression before. It's the same one he received from Altcray and the other heroes on that fateful day when he was framed for raping Malty. Suddenly, one of the soldiers breaks out of the formation and charges straight towards them. Naofumi's eyes widened in horror as the man rushed forward, weapon at the ready, his eyes fixed on an oblivious Melty. Realizing what is about to happen, Naofumi manages to overcome his initial shock just in time and reacts instinctively. Unaware about what is happening, Melty is still trying to convince Naofumi to return to the capital. She is therefore caught off guard when Naofumi suddenly seizes her by the arm and pulls her protectively towards him whilst throwing out his shield arm. With a loud clang that shocks all three girls and a noticeable grunt of pain from Naofumi, the shield hero intercepts a blow.